Good Sunday morning, everyone. Welcome back to Weather on the Go, all your weather coverage. In today's video, I will be taking you through the snow totals for the lake effect snow event that occurred across portions of western New York and northwestern Pennsylvania. And we'll also be looking at your Thanksgiving holiday week and the long-range weather forecast as we turn into early December as we go into the following week. So thank you guys so much for joining me here this morning. If you guys have not yet subscribed to the YouTube channel, hit the subscribe button down below and the notification bell to get all of my daily weather forecast updates on this channel. I cover North America, whether it's Canada, whether it's the United States or the tropics, I cover it all. So hit the subscribe button down below and the notification bell to get all of my daily weather forecast updates. So looking here at the past 72 hours for snowfall across portions of New York State, northwestern Pennsylvania from the lake effect snow machine, yes, we have some very impressive totals coming in here. And again, some of these totals are still being added onto over the next 24 hours, but just the past 72 hours here, very impressive here in two different locations, especially near the Buffalo, New York area, getting back into northwestern Pennsylvania, and then another snow band setting up over the Watertown, New York area with some 2 to even 3 foot snowfall totals there over the past 72 hours. And just giving you a kind of a broad perspective of how intense this lake effect snow machine was, here's some of the lake effect snow totals here that are still being added onto, but still, recording these as of right now. Orchard Park, New York, coming in at 77 inches of snow, which is nearly 6.5 feet. That is very impressive here. That should break a record, I do think. The Athol Springs, New York area at 65 inches. Hamburg up to 61 inches. East Aurora, New York at 54.5 inches. And Eden, New York closing in at 50 inches. And again, some of these totals could be added onto in the next 24 hours. But looking here, we do still have some winter weather advisories across western and central New York here, mainly around the Buffalo, New York area. Again, we don't have that snow band too much more up near the Watertown area. I think some of that snow is starting to come to an end. So looking here through the morning hours, we still have a little bit of some snow to go through here across portions of western and central New York. These snow bands will be starting to move out as we head into later on this afternoon and this evening. Still some snowfall and some lingering snow showers across central New York as we head towards the dinner time frame. And then as we get into the overnight hours toward the midnight time frame and moving into your Monday morning, I think we'll start to wind the snow machine down and see maybe a couple remnant flurries across the area. Otherwise, we're going to be seeing some clearing skies as we head towards your Monday time frame. Additionally, though, we could see over the next 24 to 36 hours still some more snowfall across this area. Again, we could be adding on another several inches across western and central New York, maybe a couple more inches down here into southwestern New York, northwestern Pennsylvania, and perhaps even northeastern Ohio as well. Again, not a lot of areas getting over a foot of snow, but again, a couple more inches will still add on to the significant totals that I was just showing you. Looking here, we do have the cold air locked in place across southeastern Canada, the northeast. That will remain the case as we head into this afternoon, while we have a ridge across portions of the western Canadian provinces and Alaska, around British Columbia, getting over toward the Alberta area, and then across the Pacific Northwest. That's where we have those above normal temperatures for this time of year. So we have warmer temperatures in the west and cooler temperatures in the east. As we go in towards the middle of next week, towards that Thanksgiving Eve time frame, I do think we're going to start to collapse down this ridge across western Canada into the United States, and we'll set up more of a zonal flow across the Pacific and into portions of the central United States, bringing some near average temperatures across these areas for this time of year as we get closer towards the Thanksgiving Day time frame itself. So looking here at your temperatures as we go into this afternoon, again, that cold air will stick around across the Great Lakes and New England. High temperatures will be in the 20s and low 30s. We got some return flow across portions of the central and southern plains. We got temperatures getting back into the 40s and 50s, especially into Nebraska, Kansas, Oklahoma, and even North Texas as well. And then as we move into the overnight hours, we're going to be cooling back down. Single-digit low temperatures across much of the upper Midwest and the western Great Lakes, places like Wisconsin, Minnesota, getting into Iowa, northern Illinois, and places there into northern Indiana, all the way down into portions of the deep south. We have that freezing line getting down to 32 degrees around the Atlanta metro area in Georgia, getting all the way down to 32 degrees down near portions of Jackson, Mississippi, and then back into portions of central Texas here. We could have a hard freeze there as well as we get in towards later on tonight. As we go here into your Monday, however, again, that return flow will still be there. We got those 50s, maybe some low 60s trying to show up across the Texas Panhandle into western Oklahoma. But we still have those 20s and 30s up to the north across the Dakotas, especially North Dakota into Minnesota and the north woods of Wisconsin. And then as we go into Tuesday, we'll start to moderate a lot of these temperatures. We'll get back into the 60s across portions of Texas. A lot of widespread 50s and 40s up here across portions of the eastern United States. And we'll start to warm back up into the 30s across portions of the northern plains and the upper Midwest as we go into that Tuesday, November 22nd time frame. So looking here at the overall jet stream, this is the upper level winds here, the 250 millibar winds here, and you definitely see we have a more active southern jet here as we head into today. That polar jet still bringing that northwest flow, all that cold air down from Canada into the Great Lakes and Northeast as we head into this afternoon. That will continue towards the middle of the week. However, we will start to see more of a transition to a zonal flow pattern where we have winds mainly from west to east across the area in the jet stream. So that will kind of moderate our temperatures as we get towards Thanksgiving Eve and Thanksgiving Day itself. And then looking here at Thanksgiving itself, this is Thursday, November 24th, Thanksgiving. And yes, these are your temperatures here as we head into that time frame. A lot of 60s across the Gulf Coast, some 70s and 80s down in Florida. We'll have moderating temperatures across the Ohio Valley and the Northeast. We'll be getting back into the 40s, maybe even some middle 40s across the I-95 corridor from Boston to New York City, getting down toward the Washington, D.C. area. We could be warming back up into the middle 50s at that point. The Chicago lakefront will be approaching 50 degrees on your Thanksgiving time frame. Cooler temperatures up to the north across the North Dakota into Minnesota, the Twin Cities. We might be warming into the middle 30s for your Thanksgiving Day time frame. And then across the west, we'll be seeing temperatures in the 40s and 50s, give or take lower elevation versus higher elevation, what your temperatures will be. But as we get towards later on next week, I'm keeping an eye on another storm system that's going to be moving into the eastern side of the United States. We have this big dip in the jet stream here where we have both of these jet streams phasing together. We have the polar jet from the north moving down and the southern, subtropical jet starting to phase together across the eastern United States, bringing a rather robust nor'easter potential across portions of the Northeast as we get into late next week, especially Friday, November 25th and Saturday, November 26th. And you can see the European forecast model is showing us a very robust 979 millibar low pressure center somewhere near or off the coast of the Northeast as we head towards next weekend. So that will be something to monitor as we get closer into that time frame. Looking early estimates here of what we could see. We could see some rain showers with some chillier rains across interior Northeast with the snowfall up into portions of Quebec and Ontario as we head towards the morning hours on your Friday, the day after Thanksgiving. We'll start to tightly wrap up this low pressure system with the heavier rains offshore into the western Atlantic. We'll start to bring in some of that colder air from the north, and we'll start to see some more snowfall trying to get going with some sleet and freezing rain potentially mixed in early on before we see some of that dynamic cooling here with this low pressure center. As we wrap in some of this colder air from the north, we'll start to see some heavier snow rates, especially up here into portions of the northern New England region of Maine, northern Vermont, northern New Hampshire, and places like northern New York as well. And then we'll really start to tightly wind this low pressure system up with a 977 millibar low as we get into next Saturday, November 26th. Some heavier snowfall rates cannot be ruled out, maybe 1 to 2 inch per hour rates across places here into the interior New England towards northern Maine, getting back into northern Vermont, New Hampshire, and southeastern Quebec, Canada as well. So that will be something to watch. And then a brand new storm will be starting to emerge across portions of the Pacific Northwest, bringing some rainfall down there into places like Seattle and Portland, Oregon, as we head towards next weekend as well. So looking here at the early estimates for snowfall, according to the European forecast model, high resolution guidance, you could definitely see some pretty heavy snowfall amounts possible across interior New England from portions of Vermont, New Hampshire, getting up into portions of Maine and southeastern Quebec. We could be seeing seeing double-digit totals, potentially over a foot of snow is not out of the realm of possibility across these areas, especially if we do get those 1 to 2 inch per hour snowfall rates. And then back to the west, we could have some mountain snow, some upper elevation snow across places like the Pacific Northwest, where we see some higher elevation snow, about 6 to 10 inches across these areas. Some very heavy snowfall across portions there of the higher elevations into British Columbia, into the western Canadian provinces. We could be seeing double-digit totals there as well. According to the liquid precipitation, yes, we're going to be seeing some heavier rainfall for the Pacific Northwest with that other storm system there. Yeah, we could be talking about heavy rainfall totals across Seattle, approaching maybe the 2 to 4 inches there. Getting down into Portland, Oregon, we could be talking about rainfall amounts of 1 to 2 inches. So definitely some heavier rains across those areas getting into next weekend. But in between, you see a lot of white there, some space that's not being taken up. That is just dry weather, and that is some good news with the travel ongoing as we get closer towards that Thanksgiving Day holiday itself. Taking you through the longer range weather forecast from Friday, November 25th through Tuesday, November 29th. We'll have the cooler temperatures favored in the east, and then we'll have a warm up in the west. Again, a warm up this time of year does not mean we're going to be warming up into the 70s, 80s, and 90s. It just means relative to your average high temperature will be above normal across portions of the plains, the Rockies, and portions of the western United States going into the end of November. Looking at precipitation here, we'll have that heavier snowfall potentially across the Northeast, bringing some above normal precipitation there, especially into portions, like I said, of Maine, Vermont, and New Hampshire. And then in between, again, we're going to have a lot of quiet weather rounding out the month of November. So we'll have likely below normal precipitation across much of the center of the country, especially here centered on northwest Texas, western Oklahoma, and southern Kansas. And then that new storm system could be bringing some more heavier rains, upper elevation snowfall potentially across the Pacific Northwest, maybe as far south as California and Nevada as we get towards the end of November. And looking at the snowpack too, this is very important for the storm track this time of year. We got all of the snowpack across Canada into portions there of Alaska. Again, the storm track, if we get some of these northwest flow patterns, will start to be building the snowfall a little bit farther south, but it does not look like that as we round out the November timeframe. It looks like we might actually be eating away at the southern edge of the snowpack toward the Great Lakes, the Northeast, and portions of the upper Midwest as we get into early November, or early December rather, because we are going to be seeing a little bit of a warm up as we go into the November 27th through the December 3rd timeframe. As we close out the month of November, go into early December, we're going to be seeing some slightly above normal temperatures favored from average high temperatures probably in the 30s and low 40s across these areas as we get in towards the first few days in December across much of the country, with the exception of the extreme Northeast there, where we could still hang on to near to slightly below normal temperatures there, rounding out the month of November and going into early December. We have that active storm track coming back across the western United States. That's some good news for the drought across those areas. But unfortunately, we're going to still be pretty quiet across places like Texas, the southern plains, and the southeast during this period. We could have a little bit more of a northwest flow pattern where we have some clipper-type systems moving through the upper Midwest, the Great Lakes, and the Ohio Valley during this period, bringing some nickel and dime-type snow events, some lighter rains at times, and that's where we see the near-normal precipitation during that period. And it's also during that period as we close out the month of November and get into December. Again, we do have that above normal temperatures across places like the southern and central United States, but I am keeping an eye on here, and what the models aren't really keying in on is potentially another disruption here, or at least a stretching event of the polar vortex getting ready as we get into early December from the north and west, and that will be activated by the polar jet here from the north and west moving into the United States, and then we could start to see more of those cooler anomalies showing up, potentially rounding out November, getting into early December. So there's a little bit of some disagreement within the models. We'll have to wait and see what happens, but we'll get to that as we get a little bit closer in towards that early December timeframe. Thank you guys so much for watching. Remember to like the video down below, give it a thumbs up, leave any comments, questions, and concerns below. I'll get to those later on today, and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Hit all notifications here to get all my weather forecast updates on this channel. I hope everybody has a great Sunday, and I'll see you early next week for my new weather forecast video.